All right, y'all, welcome to the show. We got an amazing one for you today. So in just a second, Trump is getting worse. He's getting worse mentally. He's getting worse physically. We had the Prime Minister from Canada, Mark Carney, who was just in the White House the other day. And Mark Carney was slobbering all over Trump, desperately trying to suck up to him so that Trump's trade war doesn't destroy Canada and make their life worse. And Trump, meanwhile, was saying the most unhinged things you've ever heard, lie after lie after lie, making no sense, throwing his own government workers under the bus over the government shutdown and saying maybe we won't pay them. So we'll talk about all that. We also have Democrats finally admitting the truth that Trump is aiming for regime change, illegal regime change war in Venezuela. We'll talk about that. Libertarians like Ron Paul are turning on Trump and going scorched earth. You love to see it. They're pissed over the war with Venezuela. They're pissed over the invasion of U.S. cities. And this is a principled libertarian stance. So, thank God they're out there telling the truth now. We also have Netanyahu telling desperate lies, trying to get Trump to do regime change in Iran. And beware of fake Gen Z Democrats who are running for office. We have a story of one who's running for office who we're going to expose as a total fraud. You don't want to miss it. Super important story. We have that and much more. You guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a big favor. Subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. You can also support the show on Patreon. That link is below. Remember, this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser, never talked to a billionaire, never did an ad read, never talked to a PAC, never talked to a government. You guys fund this show from the ground up. I'm very proud of what we've built here. You guys made it possible. So thank you to everybody who does support the show on Patreon. Thank you to everybody who tips with that thanks button below on YouTube. Again, that means the world. Also, sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. That link is below. We have Abdul El Sayed on this week. He's running for U.S. Senate in Michigan. He's an awesome candidate. Can this be the next Zoran? I think it's very possible, if not likely. So definitely check that out and go subscribe to the Corin's World YouTube channel where we do live Kyle and Corin episodes. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's start with this. So Daniel Dale, the fact checker over at CNN, had a field day because Donald Trump, in his Oval Office meeting with Mark Carney, could not stop pathologically lying. Take a look.
Manu, I counted at least 5 false claims in those remarks. It was probably more. The president repeated this imaginary figure he keeps using, saying that he secured more than $17 trillion worth of investment in the U.S. in just 8 months. The White House itself on its website uses the figure 8.8 trillion, so just over half of the one the president keeps citing. And even that 8.8 trillion is a wild exaggeration. It includes a bunch of vague promises, a bunch of vague statements from foreign countries and companies that I wouldn't say even rise to the level.
By the way, it totally made up. We got 8 trillion, we got $17 trillion, we got 48 quadrillion, trillion, bajillion dollars in investment. None of that is true. Remember, Trump and Mark Zuckerberg got caught on a hot mic where Zuckerberg was like, oh, yes, I'm going to invest trillions in the coming decade, sir. And then he said to Trump, did I do it right? I'm sorry, I forgot the exact number you wanted me to say. So he literally plans out lying about numbers when it comes to investments. They plan it out every time, and the media needs to be more direct in calling them out. Like this right here. Let's keep going.
Promises, accounts hundreds of billions in promised trade expansion as investment. So even the much smaller figure is not right. The president also said that under his leadership with his guard deployment and takeover of D.C. law enforcement, nobody is being shot now in Washington, D.C. It is true that crime is down in D.C., but it hasn't vanished, as he keeps claiming. In fact, just this morning...
By the way, crime was down 30% before he invaded it. So crime was down and he was going, it's a war zone. That's why we got to send the troops in because the crime is worse than it's ever been, even though it's objectively not.
Washington Post ran a headline that said 3 people found fatally shot in D.C. in 3 days. So shootings do continue. The president also made just an absurd claim that he saved at least 100,000 lives with a smattering of military strikes on alleged drug boats off Venezuela.
These were like dinghy fishing boats that, as I always say, didn't have enough cocaine for a single bachelor party. And he said, I saved 100,000 lives by breaking international law and bombing fishermen.
So aside from the fact that we don't have firm evidence of what was on these boats, aside from the fact that fentanyl, the most deadly of these synthetic opioids that is killing Americans, is generally brought over the border by Americans, the land border, rather than on boats from Venezuela, it is just absurd to say 100,000 lives because there were well under 100,000 total overdose deaths in the U.S. last year. So the notion that 100,000 lives were saved by striking 4 or 5 boats is simply not credible. And the president also, talking about his trade deal with the European Union, repeated his claim that before this trade deal, the U.S. couldn't sell any agriculture to the EU. more than $12 billion worth of farm products to the EU last year. Before the trade deal, the EU was the fourth biggest buyer in the world.
Bro, before this 4 years are up, fact checkers are going to hang themselves over Donald Trump. You need to be on call 24/7 when dealing with Trump because he makes up every single thing. It's astonishing. All right, so now let's talk about this. Trump is asked by the press in the White House about the furloughed government workers. So we're in a government shutdown right now. That means government workers are furloughed, which basically means like they're temporarily fired or suspended until the government opens back up. And in 2019, a law passed saying you have to pay them back pay. These are people who they have to pay their rent, they have to pay their mortgage, they have to pay their light bill, their water bill, they have to keep food on the table, etc. So 2019, a law passed mandating you give them back pay. Well, the head of the Office of Management and Budget under Trump came out and said, maybe we're not going to pay them. In fact, I don't think we're going to pay them. It's not guaranteed that we're going to pay them. This is a guy, Russ Vought, who also was one of the key architects of Project 2025. The roadmap on how to destroy the U.S. government from within. Rage, retire all government employees, the Curtis Yarvin idea. He's implementing that. So now he says, oh, if you're a government worker, maybe we won't pay you the money that you're owed by law, right? So now Trump's asked about that to correct the record and say, oh, no, we definitely will pay people. Listen to what he says. Ready?
Yeah, but...
Is it the White House's position that furloughed workers should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Okay? Thank you.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe some yes, maybe some no. We'll have to wait and see, but blame the Democrats. Unbelievable. All right, more. So this one, he's asked about the delays at the airport that are directly tied to the government shutdown because you have the TSA workers. They're like running on a skeleton crew. And like I said, there's a question of whether or not these people are even going to get paid. So he's asked about that. Listen to the response.
Are you concerned about the delays at airports and how do you see the shutdown moving?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's they're all Democrat delays. There are delays at the airport. That's standard. And again, this is something that every day we put forth a bill. It's just a continuation. It's a very simple thing to sign and very simple to do. And I really think that these are people that I think they have nothing to lose. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, this woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's a low IQ individual. I look at AOC talking about how if they want to negotiate, they can come to my office. She's not in that position to do that. And who the hell is she to say that?
So he was asked about the delays at the airport, and his reaction is, they're all Democrat delays. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, that woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's low IQ. AOC, low IQ. Are you fucking kidding me? This is totally on them. It is Trump's shutdown. All the Democrats said was, look, we're taking a stand on one thing, healthcare. Don't cut the Obamacare subsidies because people's healthcare premiums would double or triple or quadruple, right? And also reverse some of the Medicaid cuts that they did, which literally kicked millions of people off of their Medicaid, cut it $800 billion. So that's all they're fighting for is healthcare. The most basic thing, the American people are totally with them, but he still tries to blame it on the Democrats. And then when he's asked about wait times at the airport, starts talking about low IQ. Jasmine Crockett, by the way, ironic, the lowest IQ politician in the country is probably Donald Trump. Jasmine Crockett's IQ is significantly higher than Donald Trump's IQ. But this is what he's doing. All right, I got one more for you. Still not done yet. So now, here he is talking about tariffs in the White House. And listen, what even is the attempt at the connection here? Watch.
I've ended 7 wars. At least half of them was because of my ability at trade and because of tariffs. If I didn't have tariffs to throw around a little bit, you would have at least 4 wars raging right now with thousands of people a day being killed that aren't happening. We've settled. We settled 7. We're getting close to settling 8. That would be a big one.
What? I settled 7 wars. Here's how many wars he actually stopped. 0. Fucking 0. He started wars since he's been in there. Not ended them. Started them. I ended wars, and I ended wars because of these beautiful tariffs. We did these beautiful tariffs, and that's how you stop the wars, by using... The only impact on the tariffs has been to raise the price of your goods that you go and pay for at the fucking grocery store. That's what tariffs have done. They've increased prices. They've led to more unemployment. They've been an absolute catastrophe. We're on the brink of a fucking depression as a result of this trade war. It's isolated us from the world and made it so gold is at a record high because people are fleeing the dollar, and eventually the world is going to dump the dollar as the world reserve currency. That's the impact of the tariffs. Ending wars. By the way, remember, when he talks about these wars he so-called ended, he literally fucks them up all the time. He's like, we stopped Azerbaijan and Armenola. We stopped them from going to war. It can't even get the names right. There was a video the other day on Twitter that I saw of the heads of some countries that he claimed to stop wars from literally laughing with each other because the countries weren't at war. They weren't at war. When he claimed he stopped a war between India and Pakistan, both of those countries, which by the way, hate each other, they both came out on their own and said, Trump didn't talk to any of us. What the fuck is he talking about? He didn't stop a war. What are you talking about? This guy is gonzo, bro. He's such a fucking insane liar. Meanwhile, he's bombed Yemen. He's bombed Somalia. He's bombed Iran. He's bombed Venezuelan dinghy fishing boats and massacred over 20 civilians in the process. He's threatened Canada. He's threatened Greenland. He's threatened Panama. The motherfucker who can't stop bombing shit and starting new wars wants credit for ending wars that he didn't end. I can't. This is what I mean, guys. When I say we're living in a right-wing, postmodernist hellhole, this is what I mean. There is no more objective truth. There is no more empirical reality. There is no more objectivity. Trump looks at it as my truth that I just made up, and I'm going to repeat it 48 times. So now, your racist uncle at Thanksgiving is going to go, I love Trump because he stopped 7 wars, man. He stopped 7 wars. And it's like, really? Name one. You know, Azermenia and Azerbaijan. That's what I've been told. Like, this is where we're at, bro. This is where we're at. Unbelievably disturbing. He's getting worse. He's getting worse. Cognitively, he's getting worse. Physically, he's getting worse. I don't know how this country lasts 4 years. Honestly, we're relying on nature to do its thing because he's been struggling, and it'll probably be a matter of time until God calls him home. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.